Alright guys, so just been doing a bit of wiring here yesterday and today. So moving the washer fluid tank and signal level sensor, which is run off the same loom as the washer fluid level sensor. So when I brought it back to the fuse box, opened up the fuse box, pulled cable across, this is the bottle I'm using here, pulled the cable across here into there, terminated the two of them. Brown and blue is your level sensor, and is it violet and yellow? Bear me 2 seconds, just have a quick look. Yeah, I think it's violet and yellow. In that one there is your pump for your washer fluid. So that's fairly handy. I just brought over the two wires, and then I'm going to localize an earth off this mounting point here. So that's my two earths there for that. Then it was into looking at the ELR system and sort of diagnosing what does what in the main loom from the existing 300 TE. So just if you're watching these videos a while, you'll know I kind of got really into the ELR system, which is that plug back there, which is not used by most people to do this conversion. But basically what that does is on a cold morning it ups your idle so that the revs don't basically die just from being a diesel on a cold winter's morning. It also, I believe that ELR system will have a terminal in for aircon, which was a very rare option on the diesels, obviously, because the diesels were the more cost-effective purchase. So I'll be able to utilise that for when I turn on my aircon motor, that I don't go down in my idle. So anyway, but that system in the diesel was a green, and I worked it out. It was green with a yellow stripe. That was your tacho, your RPM reading inside the car. So what I did was I put energy to the two poles, my negative and my positive there. Basically got a battery on it, put the key in the ignition, and then pulled the green and yellow out of the existing TE loom. And as I tap that on the earth or negative terminal here, or any kind of earth on the body, the tacho moves. As I tap it, it wants to go up and down. I just basically what I did is I set up a camera inside the car, this phone camera up inside the car, went out, shouted at it saying this was whatever I was testing, and then tacked it like that. And as I did that, my tacho moved. So I know that then this is a direct link to that tacho in the car. That's perfect. So that's the same system then of color coding that they're doing between the two cars. Then I trace that back, and that actually goes to the fuel pump relay, which for the petrol, which again makes perfect sense because it wants an input for adjusting its idle in relation to adjusting its idle. So that's perfect for the fuel pump. So what I did was I basically pulled that pin out of there, brought it over to my ELR relay, and then what I will do is I'll keep this inside the loom, but I won't use it. And then that ELR system then has a brown and a white terminal coming out of it, which is your tack or your RPM flywheel sensor, your back here. So that again matches with the tacho or the RPM sensor that I took, position sensor off the W124, I believe I took it off, which was brown and white as well. So that's perfect. Bring that back to there. Then all we need is a temperature there, temperature, ground, and then we have our pieces that come out to the actual plug. So the temperature on the system for that was blue and red, and then I have this plug here on the existing loom, and when I search it back, it does have a blue and red part to it, or cable in it, and that obviously would have had I remember when I took out the 300T or the m103 engine, it had a 4-pin thermostat as well. So I can be fairly confident that this is a thermostat, although I couldn't get this doesn't do anything for your readings in the inside in the car. So I searched back my blue and red, and it came to the J-Tronic fuel injection system here. So again, that makes sense that it wants a temperature input to know what fueling to use, if you know what I mean. So that makes perfect sense. So what I did is I pulled that cable, I just cut it so that I could re-terminate it at any stage back here, and that's pull that cable back to a junction back there, and then that gets terminated into the ELR relay pieces as well. And then I just throw a bit of heat shrink around this, because I don't think I'm going to plug it back in, because there's no need to have that extra drain on the battery. If I find something doesn't work, I can always put it back in. I left the fuel pump relay in place, but I removed the pump's feed, if you know what I mean, from it. The reason I left that in is because that actually has a relation to the other 12-volt relay beside it for the aircon. So again, if I ever decide to use the aircon, just all I have to do is just wire it in, and the system should be able to regulate itself. So that's pretty good. So then I had the issue of trying to find. So now we should, in theory, have our tacho and our temperature gauge for the ELR system. So the ELR system should be up and running once we ground it out on the frame, and when we get our plug to plug into the bottom here, that should be that up and working. The next issue then was getting the tacho the binnacle inside to get a temperature reading, and the 300TE, the M103 engine, had a single pin, because I believe it must be a case of that, because the block itself is steel and not aluminium. It is grounded well enough that you can then just have a single pole. You can have a single pole temperature thermostat, and as its resistance builds up to the point where it touches on it, it slowly but surely rises the temperature, because it can conduct its negative through the actual body of the engine. I believe, I'm guessing at that, but I think that's probably the system that's in place. Although now this is an aluminium head, I think, isn't it? Yeah, they are aluminium heads in these. Either way, is it an aluminium head? Yeah, I think it's an aluminium head. Sorry, I'm forgetting things as I go along. But that means now that I need to get a ground and put a different plug on this. So there's another thermostat that was on the w124, which is that one there. It's a 2-pin one. So that should be it if I put a ground to this. And what I did to test that was, again, I hooked it up to the battery. I tapped that, or basically made a connection there, tapped it off the negative terminal, and I could again see when I recorded the video that the thermostat was just going up and down, bouncing around. So that's my signal for the thermostat inside the car. Perfect. So all I have to do is throw that pin into a standard 2-pin for the Mercedes setup. That one there I can use another thermostat there that came off the earlier car, and then I should have my thermostat working. So we're looking good there. What I did, for just going back to that temperature gauge on that 4-pin, when I got over here, is I actually spurred off that. So there's your green and red going from the thermostat 4-pin plug to the ELR, right? They're both crimped into a spade connector. I used a bit of spade connectors to explain why in a second. And then I have just this piece coming off here, which will be the temperature feed temperature input for the glow plug relay. So then, now what I need to find out is I need to get a good source for ignition on power to the glow plug relay. And after that, what do I need to do? After that, I need to find, what's it, just a temperature gauge, I think actually. Just temperature input I have there. Need to find a power source for that glow plug relay that's off the key. And really at that stage I'm probably forgetting something, but at that stage I should have power going to all my glow plugs on the key. And then it's just a case of fluids and reassembly of everything else, and we should be getting fairly close. I know I'm definitely forgetting something, but that should get us fairly close to the car running. And now guys, I will check back in with you when I've done a bit more.